Hello, and welcome to Intentional Spiritual Living with Brian. I'm your host, Brian Campbell, and this is episode 6. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Intentional Spiritual Living with Brian. I'm your host, Brian Campbell, the owner of Raven's Cauldron. You can find me at ravenscauldron.com. Come visit me at 110 South Sandusky Street in Delaware, Ohio. Give me a ring at 740-417-8402. Or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Ravens Cauldron Delaware. And at Raven's Cauldron on Instagram. Episode 6, so excited. Is a lot of jam-packed stuff we're going to do today. So today we're going to do the usual tarot draw and do deep dive on a tarot combination and talk about how we can use this particular tarot combination in our lives and kind of get in the weeds with the meanings of the cards and how to interpret them, like we always do. And then I'm going to do a ritual/spell. It's going to be a very witchy episode this time. Last episode 5, I did quick and dirty chime candle spells where you can throw together some quick ingredients on the fly and throw together a ritual or spell to get some stuff done. Today, I'm doing it really methodically, in tune with the day of the week, the planetary correspondences, all that stuff. It's going to be really fun and really deep. And then finally, I'm going to talk about a rarer gemstone that's a favorite of mine called chrome diopside. Beautiful green stone and how you can use it to better your life. So with no further ado, let's get started. It is tarot time, and let's get right to it. Lots to talk about today about this combination. I just pulled Major Arcana 3, the Empress, as well as the Eight of Wands. So again, we have the Empress and the Eight of Wands to talk about today. Great combination here. I'll tell you a little bit of personal history with the Empress card and a breakthrough that I had with her when reading for clients. It's kind of interesting. So, and how it relates to this combination with the Eight of Wands. So, Major Arcana 3, so it's the 4th card up on the Major Arcana, is the Empress. And if you want to play along with me, or follow along with me, go ahead and pull your Empress card if you have a tarot deck, and you're not driving, of course, or open up Google and just search for the Empress, and so you can kind of look at this card. And so my personal story with this card, I read professionally for clients all the time, and she would always throw a monkey wrench into certain readings for me when I was doing career readings and different types of readings, because it's traditionally all about fertility and giving birth to another human, giving birth to life is a lot of people's belief of this card, and she certainly does represent that. It is absolutely, if somebody's coming in and asking you about creating a family, I had a couple come in that were asking about starting a family and having a child, and the Empress card came up, and of course that means good vibes for you and likely going to happen, but it doesn't always mean that. And so it would confuse me when it would come up. And so I meditated on her. I studied her. I studied everything around her, her archetype being Mother Earth, the pomegranates meaning fertility, the stars, her alignment with the divine, sitting out on this beautiful throne with wheat at her feet and a beautiful lush forest with waterfalls behind her. Certainly tells me that she gets her vibe with earth-based concepts, if you will. She gets her energy from the outside world. And so, but again, she was still stumping me from time to time. And so when I started meditating with her and really deep diving and spending hours just gazing at the card, shutting my eyes, memorizing the picture and figuring out what was going on and putting her with other cards so I could learn the narrative, it quickly came to me that when the Empress comes up, it's not only about, giving birth to another life and fertility, but also it's very much about giving birth to new ideas, nurturing things into existence, using her feminine energy and her leadership and wisdom to take something from start to finish and acknowledging ideas and putting them into motion. That's what she speaks to me in certain readings. And so, you may have a client come to you and you're talking about this new, this crazy notion that they have to open. And please understand, I'm making stuff up. Somebody may come to me and say, I want to open a greenhouse. This whole pandemic thing has changed my life, and I don't want to do what I've been doing all along, and I want to open a greenhouse. That's my passion, and I'm coming to see you, Mr. Tarot Reader, so we can just kind of, see what the universal guidance might want to tell us. And so I may do a Celtic cross, and a Celtic cross is a very large spread, and it tells us many, many attributes and aspects of a question in a situation that's going on. And so what I want to tell you about the Empress is where she might show up in that reading and how it would be interpreted. So the first 3 cards, or 4 cards of a Celtic cross, are a card that represents the person asking the question, and then to the left would be in their recent past and in the near future, and then the card that crosses the person. And so let's say that the star represents the person, and what's crossing them is the Empress, and then we have near past, near future, that type of stuff. And so this person's asking about opening a greenhouse, and I'm seeing that the Empress is crossing them. And if I just was homed in on that whole fertility, giving birth to another life aspect of it, I would be very confused. And so this person's coming, they're thinking about this new idea of following their soul's purpose, and they want to open this greenhouse. And why is the Empress crossing them? Well, it's obvious to me now. It's because you're not opening your eyes to the possibilities and giving birth to these ideas and taking them into fruition. And that's a challenge for you. And so that's why she may be crossing the queer. And so when we have the Empress come up, think about those type of things. And when you work with this card and the symbols in the card and the rich imagery and how you interpret her, just know that she's Mother Earth archetype and all about welcoming with open arms any possibilities for us to be the best version of ourselves. That's what the Empress means to me. And she also, of course, does mean fertility and pregnancy, depending on where she shows up in a reading and what's the questions being asked. And so we combine her with the 8 of Wands, and there's not a lot to talk about on the 8 of Wands. On imagery, you've got 8 fertile wands, and when I say fertile, they're all sprouting leaves that are flying through the air at a fast clip, and behind them is a beautiful landscape with a house on a hill and a stream. And so here's how that plays into a reading. We know that the suit of wands is that fire. It's represented by the element of fire, and it's that fire that burns within us when passions and hobbies and hardcore belief systems come about, things that we really care about. And so the 8 of Wands tells us you have that symbol of the back of that beautiful house on the hill with everything and lush and perfect, picture perfect. And it's telling you not to hold back on your decision-making prowess. Make quick decisions and move quickly. And numerologically speaking, the number 8 is all about action and movement. And when you look at numerology from the 1 to the 10, we're making our way towards that 10, of getting towards that kind of completion, and you're getting close, and it's basically telling us that, don't drag your feet, go with your gut. You're seasoned enough now. You're well past the idea phase and putting stuff into motion, that we have a solid plan here. We have a solid project that we're working on. Do not delay. And so we combine that with Major Arcana 3, the Empress, and it's basically telling us, if we just solely look at that tarot combination, that whatever's going on in your life, and when you're meditating and thinking about this and this combination came up to you, Don't delay. Now is not the time to drag your feet. Now is not the time to be uber methodical. Just go with your gut and make it happen. And know that the Empress has your back and she's telling you it's a great idea and let's do this. That is our combination for today. Coming up next, let's get our spell casting on with a really cool candle magic spell. All right, friends. So, while running my store and coming in contact with the community, whether it be what you want to call baby witches, people new to a new spiritual path, whatever it is, a very common question that comes up to me because I've been practicing for many decades is all about spell casting. What is it? How do you do it? Give me an example. Are you going to do an event where we can do some spell casting? Can you create a spell kit for me? And the list goes on and on. But if we boil it all down to the least common denominator, simply is just about how to put together a spell and how they work, etc. And so on episode 5, if you listened to that last week, I did a couple of quick and dirty, what I call spells with chime candles, where we just did a couple basic herbal blends and cleansed the chime candle of any negative energy, rolled the candle in the herbal blend that we just created ourselves, and set our intention, focused, lit the candle, disposed of the spell materials and herbs in a profound and relevant way to what we were trying to do. So that's what I call a quick and dirty, because I don't want everybody to always get into the habit of thinking that, oh gosh, I gotta do a spell, but it's just so much damn work and I don't have time. True statement here. It is a ton of work to pull off a deep-rooted spell. I promise you that. And I guess my opinion on that is that if you really want to get down to grassroots and do something to enhance or improve your life, it's going to take a lot of work. You know, it's going to take a lot of research and a well-crafted, well thought out, and well curated is the word I was looking for. Curated. A well curated spell will bring solid results, and it's because of the time and the effort and the research that you've put into making whatever it is you need to have happen. And so today, I want to just talk about a spell that I have and share it with you on how to put something like this together. Now, I will actually sell this spell kit that I'm about to go over with you in my store, and it will come in a nice hand-painted jar with all the spell materials that you would possibly need to make this happen. But you could also throw this all together yourself too, and sometimes, I don't mean to cheat my own sales, but sometimes the thrill is in the kill, and collecting the spell ingredients yourself is certainly a pleasurable experience. But again, it's wonderful that I'm able to offer some of these spell kits for those that don't have time. We all get busy with our work and that type of thing, and it can take a lot of energy and effort to put together an end-to-end spell. And so today is an example of this. We're going to go through things on significance of the day that you do the spell, astrological significance, mythological. We're going to have all kinds of spell materials that you're going to need to do this spell, and you're going to see just how deep it can kind of get. So with no further ado, I don't want to keep you on this podcast for longer than we need to. Let's get started. And so you're hearing this on Friday, and so we're going to do a Friday spell. And so from a mythological perspective, Venus, the goddess of love, is represented on Friday. Also on Friday is a mythological figure that is split into two. It is argued whether or not it's the same person because of the duality, but I love the fact that it's split into two because it makes the spell so much more powerful, and you'll see why here in a second, and that is Freya and Frigga. So, Frigga and Freya, Norse mythology, from the Vanir tribe of deities. And split into two people because you have Frigga, who is the goddess of love, creativity, those type of, if you think the Suit of Cups in tarot, like those kind of emotional goddess of love type of deity. And then we have Freya, and she's a warrior goddess. And they're rumored to be the same person with just different aspects of their life. And married to Norse god Odin. And so a lot of people will say that the word Friday, or the day Friday, is named after Frigga and or Freya. So I'm telling you all this because we're doing a spell on Friday. We're doing a spell about expanding our creative outlets. And in Norse, Fridays are called Frigga or Freya Day. And Fridays are represented by Venus, the goddess of love. And so right now we've taken intentional thought into our spell. We're not just throwing some things together. We're paying attention to what day it is, what deities are represented on that day, and getting a little bit of trivia about them. And this is kind of how you put a spell together. You start gathering everything involved, where the moon is in its cycle if you're doing moon work, and what day of the week it is, what colors you're using, that type of thing. And so that's what we're going over today, how deep these things can get above and beyond just the quick and dirty. So we're going to use a candle, like a taper candle, in this particular spell, and you'll want to have light green, light blue, or pink, your choice. We're going to need some metal to perform this spell, and we will need copper. The type of copper that you would wrap jewelry with. You can get it at any hobby store that you like to frequent, and medium thickness on that, because we're going to be actually wrapping this copper into a rune symbol for Berkana, so that's what we're doing with that. We'll need a selection of herbs. Specifically, we need a little bit of mugwort, dragon's blood, which is a resin, rose petals dried, and hibiscus flowers dried. Also need a selection of crystals. If you don't have them in your toolkit already, we will want amber, malachite, jade, peridot, and turquoise. And so I chose all of those stones, all of those herbs, intentionally with the idea of inducing creativity, because that's what we're trying to do here. And this is a spell that I have used many times in my life to help induce creativity. And I want to give you an example before I go through the actual spell. Those that have taken candle magic classes from me and events know this story. So when my father passed away, 6 months after he died, you know what it's like when you have a family member that close or a parent die, if you have been through such a thing. It's easier at first when it happens because everybody is attuning to your needs and coming, checking on you. And then at some point down the road, life goes back to normal and you go back to work and life happens, bills come in, everybody's not checking on you every day, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I got to that point when my dad died, I wanted to do something to make my dad very proud. Now, something about me, I come from a family of mechanical blue-collar folks, very talented, can take engines apart, knows HVAC systems really well, and it goes on and on, very good with their hands and good with tools and building. And then there's me. We don't know where I came from. I'm into metaphysical things. I worked in information technology for a year. I'm really gifted with electronics and computers and spirituality studies and this type of stuff. So it was hard to come. I wanted to do something to really, really, really make my dad proud, but I was struggling as to what to do. And so I did this spell that we're about to do. And at the end of this, I will tell you the results of this spell, but that's why I came up with this spell. So we went through the stones, the herbs, the candle you need. You also will need a tarot card deck. Specifically, we will need Major Arcana 3, the Empress, which we actually just talked about in our tarot draw today. And you will need the 4 sevens from the suit of Pentacles, Swords, Wands, and Cups. The astrological signs that are involved in this spell are Taurus and Libra. So we want to, again, talk about why we're doing this and why we pick these things. And it's all to induce creativity, artistic endeavors, spiritual harmony, creativity, etc., etc., etc. So one of the things that we want to do in this particular spell, since it's for Freya and Frigga, is that we want to perform it on a Friday, because it is often documented and put out in theory that Friday was named for Frigga and Freya. And so that's the significance of performing this on a Friday. So I want to talk about a couple other components that we're going to look at to put this spell together. And just to summarize, because I know we have a lot going on here and this is kind of a big undertaking. We, are using a taper candle in the color of light green, light blue, or pink. We're using Major Arcana 3, the Empress tarot card, plus the 4 suits in a tarot deck of number 7. And those are the suit of Pentacles, the suit of Wands, the suit of Swords, and the suit of Cups. We need some amber, malachite, peridot, jade, and turquoise. Herbs, we need mugwort, dragon's blood, rose, flowers, and dried hibiscus. And we're going to need to understand the Berkana rune. Runes it's an ancient alphabet carved into wood or stone. Typically don't have curved lines on the symbols because of them being carved into stone and how ancient they are. A rune master was someone that was revered in the Norse society. And they were kind of predictors, if you will. The word rune itself means magical rhyme. And the Vikings actually accepted the meaning of to whisper a secret for runes. So the rune that looks like a bee, and you'll have to look up Berkana, is a rune that is dedicated to goddess Frigga and or Freya, and it is a rune of creativity and mystery. And so we're going to actually use the copper wire that we have as part of our shopping list to create this rune for this spell. And so with that, I know I've thrown a lot out at you as far as the day of the week that we're doing this, the significance of the colors that we're doing, the tarot cards, etc. And so, as you all know, and you'll get sick of me saying, I like to talk about the whys, not just the musts, if you will. And so I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the whys of the tarot aspect of this. So the Empress, why would you need to have an Empress tarot card? Well, I know that you just listened to the tarot portion of this podcast, but it's the same reason. The Empress is all about sitting out in Earth. Her archetype is Mother Earth, and all about giving birth to new ideas, new creativity, new life. And in this particular spell, we are trying to enhance our creativity. And remember when I told you about my father passing and why I originally curated this spell. Just keep that in the back of your mind, because when we're done, I'm going to talk about it. Now, why would we need the 4 sevens of the 4 suits of a tarot deck? First, I will just talk, without talking about sevens, it's a complete balance when we take the 4 suits. So the 4 suits are represented by elements. So the suit of wands is fire. The suit of swords is air. The suit of pentacles is earth, and the suit of cups is water. And you take those 4 representations and what they mean, and you make a very balanced person. And we combine that with the numerological significance of the number 7, which is discovery, knowledge, assessment. It's all about discovering who you are, discovering via knowledge and assessing where you're at and where you want to be. And since we want to supercharge our creativity, a 7 is a wonderful number to choose. And the inherent perfect balance of all 4 suits of a tarot deck make it very powerful. So I just wanted to touch on why we would do what we're doing at this point. So once again, I want to go over the shopping list again. I know I just did that, but I know many of you could possibly be driving, so this might help reinforce it, and many of you might be suffering from my fast talking abilities, and so to keep you from having to rewind, I'll just say it one last time, and I have them in a nice order here. So we need a taper candle of pale blue or pale green or pink. We need the tarot card Empress, the 4 sevens. We need a candle holder. We need copper wrapping wire. We need amber, turquoise, jade, peridot, malachite. Now, I want to talk about stop there before I finish the shopping list. You can pick 2 or so of those stones. It's not that you need every. I want to give you choices. Mugwort, rose petals, hibiscus, and dragon's blood. Dragon's blood is not an herb, but a resin, and that's for the incense portion of it. If you're burning the dragon's blood and it's not a dragon's blood stick incense and you do have the resin, then you also need a charcoal disc and some sort of burning vessel. And if you have those things, you already know how to do that. And then we need some essential oil to cleanse the candle, and we're going with lemongrass oil. And finally, we will get to the actual spell. The first thing we want to do is not unlike what we did in the last quick and dirty candle spells that I did in episode 5. And so you want to get your candle, and we want to cleanse that candle. And so you'll need a little rubbing alcohol and or vodka if you don't have rubbing alcohol, and not very much. Maybe a teaspoon and then a quarter of a teaspoon of lemongrass essential oil, and mix those. And then you'll just use a cotton ball and start doing a circular pattern of thinking about releasing any energies that are in that candle that don't pertain to you. And so we think about the manufacturing process for that candle. And then somebody shipped it and put it into a box to get it to you. And maybe they were having a very negative, energetic day. And the list goes on. And so we want to rid that candle of all that energy, because we're really focusing our thoughts and our energy on this spell of enhancing and taking our creative idea from thought to reality. So once you've done that, then I want you to get out your copper wire. And since this is a podcast and I can't show you, I'm going to have to ask you to look up Berkana. But it looks like a B, the letter B, but where the 2 rounded sections of the letter B are kind of triangular, because it was carved into stone and wood. And back in the very early Viking days and Norse times, it was not easy to carve curves into stones without extra work, so that's why there's not a lot of curves in the runes. And I want you to bend this wire into a Berkana, or this B. And all the while that you're doing that, I want you to think about this lack of creativity, this lack of gumption to take ideas next and to enhance our creativity. And infuse that energy and that thought into this kind of handmade rune that you're making out of copper wire. So, once you've done that, then I want you to place your crystals and your tarot cards around your candle. So imagine setting your candle in the middle of your sacred altar space, and then you have the Empress and 4 sevens. So I would put the Empress on top and then make a U shape around the bottom of the candle with the 4 sevens. And the 4 sevens again are the 7 of cups. And we're saying choices here, because the 7 of cups is all about choices. And then the 7 of wands, the meaning of that card is all about hard work. And the 7 of pentacles, the meaning of that card is all about perseverance. And the 7 of swords is all about strategy and how we're going to get this done. And so I hope you're starting to put together, I know I've said this, but I like to keep reinforcing as to why we choose these things. It's just not random to choose these cards. They have deep-rooted meanings to help us get from point A to hopefully point Z in this. Not point B, but point Z. We want to really have a successful spell. All right, so again, you place your crystals in any fashion you want around your candle, and then put your Empress card at the top in the north section with the U shape with the 4 sevens. Now we're going to empower the herbs that we are using in this candle. So I want you to take your mortar and pestle, and I want you to put your herbs in the mortar and pestle, and I want you to start grinding them with intention. And as you're grinding them, I want you to envision in your mind this creative endeavor. Or in my case, when I designed this and curated this spell, I didn't know what it was. So I was thinking of my dad smiling, and what would make him smile is what I used. And so I want you to say, as you're grinding these herbs, your mugwort and your rose petals and your hibiscus petals, I want you to start saying, gods and goddesses of fire, by your great strength, grant your power of creativity to these herbs for my good use. And as you're saying that little incantation, I want you to say it 7 times. Keep in mind that we already talked about the numerological significance of the number 7 and how it's relevant to the spell that we're putting together. So again, we're empowering our herbs, gods and goddesses of fire, by your great strength, grant your power of creativity to these herbs for my good use. Now that we have empowered our herbs, I am making a blanket assumption here that the crystals you're using have been consecrated to your own use. If they have not, tune into a podcast later about consecration of tools, but I am assuming that you have consecrated your own crystals for this spell. So we have everything laid out in front of us. We're sitting in our sacred space, and we are about to cast a circle. And you may ask, what does that mean, or why would we want to do that? So circle casting is something that I do for serious spell casting, not the quick and dirty stuff, but when I really want to put together something like this, then I use a circle. And I have a prayer, if you will, or an incantation, and a series of actions that I use when I cast my circle, and I am going to share a simplified version of that with you tonight. And why would we want to cast the circle to do that? Because we're casting a circle, we're invoking the goddesses and gods all around us, as well as any of our spirit animals and any of the other world creatures, such as fae and gnomes, that type of thing. We're calling them to our circle, and we're keeping out all negativity and outside influences. We're casting this circle so that it is our area of concentration and our area of safety, and we're building energy within that circle to raise our spell to the highest degree so that we can get results. So to do a casting of a circle, it is best if you have an athame, which is a knife that is consecrated and used in your craft. But I realize that not everybody that's listening to this podcast does that. So a simple wand would work, a kitchen knife would work, whatever you have. And if you find that this circle casting is something that you want to continue to do and develop your craft and you're really enjoying it, then you might want to take the path of getting yourself a nice athame. So with no further ado, when you're saying this circle, you hold your athame or whatever, your wand, whatever you're using, with your projected hand. So if you're right-handed, your right hand. If you're left-handed, your left hand. And you're going to hold your hand completely away from your body and standing in front of your sacred space and walk around so that you've completed a complete circle. It's as if you're drawing a circle with this knife, athame, or wand. And while you're doing that, you want to keep your energy really high and keep focused on what you want done here, which is creativity, and say the following. I consecrate this circle to the goddess and the god. This is a time that is suspended from all reality. I stand between the mysteries and ask for protection within the circle and ask to be guarded from all evil. Blessings of the goddess. Please bestow the representation of the elements of fire, earth, air, and water at this table, as each is represented by a sacred tarot card. Mother Earth, I call upon you and the Empress to grant peace and well-being in this circle tonight. Let it be done. That's what you want to say to cast this circle as you're tracing your circle around your sacred space. I'm going to say it one more time. I consecrate this circle to the goddess and the god. This is a time that is suspended from all reality. I stand between the mysteries and ask for protection within this circle and ask to be guarded from all evil. Blessings of the goddess, please bestow the representation of the elements of earth, fire, air, and water at this table, as each is represented by a sacred tarot card. Mother Earth, I call upon you and the Empress to grant peace and well-being in this circle tonight. Let it be done. Once you've done that, you've casted your circle. You want to remain inside that circle for the duration of the spell. That's where we're focusing our energy, and that is how we're going to get this spell done. I want you to take the Berkana copper rune representation that we did earlier and lay that out in front of you on your altar. Once it is there, I want you to think about Freya. I want you to think about creativity and passion and what you want out of this spell. The winds of change to come in over you and spark you with whatever it is needed for you in this spell. As you're staring at that rune that you made, I want you to, again, think with all your might about happy creativity in your life. When you got to that point where you've raised your intention as high as you possibly can, I want you to pick up that rune, that copper rune, and I want you to hold on to it. And I want you to light your incense, whichever way you're doing that, while you're holding the rune. Once the smoke starts to come out and you start feeling it, I want you to just hold your Berkana rune of copper over the smoke and let it infuse it. Dragon's blood, creativity, fire within, and just let the smoke roll all over it. And then I want you to just hold the rune over all 4 of the 7 tarot cards. Each one of those is a representation of a different element, as you know. And while you're doing that, I want you to say the following. By the help of Freya, and to honor Freya on her day, with the aid of the goddess and god, I submit my need to energize my life with creativity before you. Let the winds of change wash all over me. So mote it be. Once you've done that, and you've put it over all 4 of the 7s, and rubbed your rune through the smoke of the incense, set your rune on top of the Empress card to infuse it with her energy of creativity, her energy of being nurtured by Mother Earth, her archetype of Mother Earth, her ability or innate ability to give birth to new ideas, new creativity. And set it down and light your candle in the middle that is adorned with the crystals that you've chosen. And I want you to sprinkle your empowered herbs over the tarot cards, over Mother Earth, the Empress. Not all of them, but just a subset of them, your empowered herbs. And I want you to say that incantation once again. By the help of Freya, and to honor Freya on her day, with the aid of the goddess and god, I submit my need to energize my life with creativity before you. Let the winds of change wash all over me. So mote it be. All right. I want you to slowly gaze at the candlelight before you and the herbs that have washed over your tarot cards and the Berkana rune you've made and the beautiful crystals that you've set out and the aroma of the incense and the lemongrass oil that we've used. And I want you to put your hands out in front of you with your palms up and sit as straight as you possibly can and gaze into that candlelight, that flame, and envision what you want. In my case, when I did this the first time, I was envisioning a new creative path to make my dad proud, and so I didn't know what that was, so I was envisioning my dad smiling. That's what I wanted out of the spell. I wanted to make my dad proud with creativity and him smiling. And let your eyes come to close when the time comes after you've looked at your creation here within your circle, and raise your power. Sit up as tall as you can. If you've ever practiced Kundalini yoga and you're familiar with the chakra system and the energy at the base of your spine, flowing up your spine all the way out through your crown chakra, exercise that now. Raise your energy, vision white light, vision creativity, vision whatever it is you want out of this, and make this happen. This is the most important part of the spell. You're within your mind, and you're manifesting, and you're infusing goodness into your own life, whatever it is you're choosing. Do this for 15 minutes if you must. It should feel really good. You almost might feel a little drunken spell during this because of how cleansing and happy it is. You're within your circle and you're empowering your life. When you have finished your meditation, you may open your eyes and see how you feel. The spell is done. We're going to close the circle by saying, goddesses and gods of fire, earth, air, and water, I thank you and bid you farewell. The circle is closed. Again, you'll say, goddesses and gods of fire, earth, air, and water, I thank you and bid you farewell. The circle is closed. And then use your athame or the knife you're using or the wand to cut the circle. And now you may leave the circle. And that is an end-to-end spell that takes time and effort and focus and intention to pull off. And when you get the time to try something like this, I encourage it. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to manifest positive change in your life and make things happen to enhance your own life. I tell you, friends, I've done this many times over the years with many different spells, and this is what you do. This is how they work, and how you hear the notion out there that you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want, you can accomplish anything you want, and all of those things are 100% true. The power lies within each one of us. We have the power to manifest change. And this is a great way. And again, I will say it again and sound repetitive. I encourage you to try this. Now, I always like to wrap up spells with some sort of post-spell ritual. Some people just take their spell materials, meaning the herbs, and throw them away in case the spell is done. You've invoked the gods and goddesses, and it's time to move on. I don't do that. So what I would ask you to do is further grind your herbs to the finest powder you can and put 1 or 2 drops of lemongrass oil in your herb mixture. Put them in a jar and use this magical powder and to infuse your life with creativity until you get and reach your goal. When you've reached your goal and those herbs have worked for you, then you can toss them out into a running body of water, into your yard, into a garden, and give them back to Mother Earth. That's my strongest recommendation here. As far as the crystals that you have, that's part of your toolkit. Of course, you're going to keep them. So the herbs are what we have spent up and used, and that's the post-ritual. So I hope this has been beneficial for each and every one of you. I certainly love doing this stuff. I will do other big spell rituals for you as the podcast continues down the line, but this was the first really elaborate big spell that I've done for you, and I just wanted to demonstrate how there are so many intentional measures in this spell crafting. The day of the week that you're doing it, the phase of the moon, the crystals that have metaphysical properties for what you want to get done, the metals that have metaphysical properties for what you want to get done, herbs, the incense, the oils. It's all done with intention and meaning. It's not just pulled out of the sky and say, oh, let's just do that and say it 3 times and sound very like a Hollywood witch. That's not what we're doing here at all. If I tell you to say something 7 times, it's matching the numerology of the 7 tarot cards that we have in our spell, and it all ties back together. And it really, at the end of the day, what we're doing here is raising the power and the likelihood of success of this spell, because at the end of the day, we must remember anything worth doing is worth working hard for, and spellcrafting is no different. It's not easy. It doesn't happen quick like people think. You don't just throw some. You can do quick and dirty stuff, but even that, like in episode 5, the chime candle spells, that was not quick and dirty and easy. If it were, everyone would be doing this, right? So before we move on, I promised you at the beginning of this discussion that I would tell you the result of my curation and execution of this spell the first time I did it. And it was, again, about my dad, when my dad passed away, and how I wanted to do something to make him proud. So I did the spell, used the visualization of my dad smiling, all the materials, casted my circle, everything we just went through, and did it, to the nines, if you will, to the T's. Everything just as so. Raised my vibration, put all my heart and soul in it. And about a week went by and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden I was at work, and I got into work and I was checking emails. And then I always, when I get to work, when I used to work at a desk job, I would always open up a news site just to see what was going on in the world. And when I did, as we all know how advertisements come across our desktops, well, there was this advertisement, and it came through, and it said, "Learn to paint like the masters." And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I've always wanted to paint but never had any artistic abilities. And so I clicked on it, and it was this course by a lady named Gail LeVay out of Nashville, Tennessee, and how she kind of teaches painting, oil painting, to kind of mimic the way the masters like Rembrandt did it. Color mixing, keeping a very limited color palette, understanding composition, toning your canvas, working with light and shadow, all the stuff that you need to know to be an effective oil painter. And it was an expensive course, and I paid for it, and I executed the entire thing, went through it, gave it my all. And I've had a couple paintings featured at local galleries. I have one in my store, and I tell the story in my candle magic class. And I just wanted to share with you guys, that was the result. I asked for a new creative endeavor to make my dad proud. I didn't know what I wanted, so I just used a vision of him smiling, and then boom, this, by chance, a week later came across my desk. So there you have it, friends. Up next, we will talk about chrome diopside. So chrome diopside, I'm holding a piece right now, a piece that I've used for years. And it's such a really cool stone. It's got like clear, it's not a quartz family stone, but it has little pockets of clear quartz, but also wildly varying shades of green, whether it be like a dark hunter green all the way up to a light green. But you can see inside the stone, it's got a very electrifying feeling to it when I hold it. And I want to quickly, I know I've kept you a long time for that elaborate spell we just did, so I don't want to go over too much on time, which I already have gone over. I just want to talk about how I use it. I don't have a ritual that I use with chrome diopside. I just carry it with me, and the powerful nature that I use it for. But generally speaking, if you are using chrome diopside, its healing properties, and these are all metaphysical properties, are about general healing and regeneration. So people that have had surgeries, it's a good stone to carry with you to get back on your feet and heal the body. It's a really good stone for people that have smoked cigarettes and have quit smoking, to regenerate the tissue in the lungs and heal that. It's well documented for a use for that. What I use it for is aiding and trusting others. I generally, it's much better these days, but I generally can be a distrustful person when I think somebody's trying to wrong me. And sometimes when you go down that downward spiral, it's paranoia, really, and oftentimes that's not at all the case. And so to be more accepting of the human condition and of other human beings, chrome diopside is a wonderful stone to carry, and that is exactly what I use it for. When I'm having times of feeling attacked and feeling like everyone's out to get me, and distrust in the process and distrust in people as a rule, chrome diopside is my go-to stone, and that's the one that I keep in my toolkit for just that. Other good properties that I've used it for are being aware of my gifts. So not, you might want to be good at everything, a jack of all trades, and then you come up short when you are not the best golfer, for instance. And so it kind of aids in healing you from trying to do it all and ramping up what you do well. So it's another great use of chrome diopside. And finally, one of the cool metaphysical uses that I have a friend that uses it for is academic study. So he keeps chrome diopside, a big cluster crystal of it. I've seen it. It's exquisite. When he's got a project he's working on for work, when he has to study something for college, that type of thing. And it's kind of like an all-natural focusing agent. So another great use of chrome diopside. So don't discount this stone. I wanted to talk about it today very briefly because it's one of those stones that's not documented much. You don't hear much about it, and it's really powerful. And actually, real quick, when I open Raven's Cauldron, I tumble all of the stones that I sell in the store, except for any of the toxic stuff. For instance, like Bumblebee Jasper or Malachite, I won't mess with, but everything else I tumble. And so I was so excited when my wholesaler that I get my tumbling rough from actually had chrome diopside rough available, and I was able to tumble a bunch of it. And it's just a really cool looking stone. If for any other reason you don't use it metaphysically, it's a great stone just to look at, but don't discount it. It's a very powerful and very, very nice aid in aiding you in forgiveness and acceptance, which sometimes I need and I think we all need. So chrome diopside. Thank you, friends, for listening to Intentional Spiritual Living with Brian. I'm your host, Brian Campbell. Reach out to me at ravenscauldron.com or follow me on Instagram at ravenscauldron. I look forward to episode 7 next week. Have a great week, friends.